The Texas House passes the GOP-drawn congressional map, sending the bill to Senate for final approval, paving the way for Republican-drawn maps that could net the GOP as many as 5 more U.S. House seats. The vote occurred after more than a 2-week standoff with state Democrats who broke quorum, left the state, and led to an early end to the first special session. Monday's second special session began, and the first order of business was to pass the map, leading to the return of the Democrat legislatures and law enforcement escorts, surveillance, and even lock-ins. But then last night, just a little before 6:30 p.m., a vote was called and the new map was passed the Texas House along party lines. Now is the time to join the conversation. You can give us a call or send us a text. What do you think? How do you feel? Give us a call, 713-440-8870. And joining us in studio to discuss further is politics and government reporter for Houston Public Media, Andrew Schneider. Andrew, what's the latest on the story?
Latest on the story is that the map went through the Senate Select Redistricting Committee this morning. They had a meeting starting at 9 o'clock. By 10 o'clock, they had passed it out of the committee, also along party lines. And that means it could go to the Senate floor as early as tonight. Right now on the agenda for tonight is the Senate's map, but Senator Phil King, the Republican senator, made it clear that he was backing the House version. And he explained why it was primarily to enable the Republicans to pick up 5 seats.
I am very proud of the work that the U.S. House has done, and the president and the U.S. Senate over these past 8 months now. I was very concerned and disturbed with what was done during the Biden administration, and I'm very concerned that if the Republicans lost the majority in the U.S. House, that the 2 years following the midterms could be very harmful to Texas and to the United States. And so I want us to maintain a Republican majority and hopefully increase a Republican majority in the U.S. Congress. And that's my purpose for being willing to carry this map.
So, Andrew, no more pretense.
No, and in fact, there was no pretense yesterday either during the House debate. State Representative Todd Hunter of Corpus Christi, who is the author of the map, made clear repeatedly that this was for partisan gain. He did say he did try and respond to Democrats who argued that there was essentially no difference between partisan and racial gerrymandering the way that the Republicans were doing it, but he was quite blunt that the aim was to maximize Republican political performance.
You just said the representative that wrote the map. He wrote the bill.
He wrote the bill. Excuse me.
Yeah,
He actually was asked about this several times as to who had actually prepared the map, and he could not name the person who prepared the map. He simply pointed to the law firm that had advised him on the map and said that it was a lawyer at that law firm who had drawn the map.
And you also, one last thing on that, also we talk about the Senate map and the House map.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that they are moving ahead with the House map. Is it the maps that are different, or is it the legislation surrounding
It's the maps. The House map actually draws several districts to be slightly more favorable to Republicans in the Houston area. That would include Congressional District 9, which has been moved from South and Southwest Houston, where it's been solidly Democratic for years, into an East Houston and Harris County district. And the House map, unlike the Senate map, includes Liberty County, which is solidly Republican.
So that's Al Green, right?
That is Al Green's district. Al Green's home has actually been moved into Congressional District 18.
So who wrote the Senate's map? Is it the same law firm that did the House map, or did the Senate themselves take the map and adjust? How do we know how we got to their map?
It's not clear to me. That was actually not something that came up in any of the hearings.
And it doesn't matter now because it looks like it's the House map. That's
exactly.
The one that's going.
Andrew, what does this mean to the Sylvester Turner seat?
Well, Sylvester Turner's old seat, Congressional District 18, was solidly Democratic. It looks like it's going to continue to be solidly Democratic under the new map. But what it means in practical terms is that if Al Green wants to stay in Congress after the current session, his best bet for trying to do so would be to run in the congressional primary for the 18th, where his home has been moved.
I was going to say, is that a coincidence? That is, I mean, how did that's good luck for him.
Well, I've spoken with a number of people, political scientists that argued that that would be his best chance. It's impossible to read the man's mind. He hasn't made any public statements and probably won't until the map is law. Which we're expecting to happen sometime in the next couple of days at the current pace. But it's basically a variation of what has happened in previous rounds of redistricting in order to try and force him into a position of running against another Democrat.
And do you know anything about the vacant seat in Dallas that has been solidly Democratic that also hasn't been filled?
I have not been watching that one as closely, no.
Let me ask you a little bit about a little civics class here for me.
Sure.
In the state, do you have to live in the district you represent, or do you have to just live within the region? I don't know. How does it work? Do you have to live where you represent?
My understanding is that you don't have to.
That confuses me.
That you don't have to live in the district, but it's certainly it's something that works to your disadvantage if you're not in the district, if for no other reason than because you don't understand the district's concerns as well.
And I asked that question so that understanding if your district got shifted away from you, but you've been a successful representative, you could still run in this new district. Even you don't have to move your residence.
You could, but I think it would be an extremely heavy lift for Al Green to run in the new Congressional District 9 simply because it has been drawn so heavily Republican.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're listening to Hello Houston. We're speaking with politics and government reporter for Houston Public Media, Andrew Schneider. You can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. Wayne is on the line. Wayne in Galveston. What is your comment or question for us today?
What happened to integrity and honesty and the old way they used to do business, a handshake? You could just start. You get to the politicians to say, okay, well, give me 5 seats. And then, okay, we'll give you 5 seats. And then all of a sudden, you're changing for your benefit. What happened to honesty? And if the bill is so beautiful, big, beautiful bill, why you have to get more seats? Because if it's so beautiful, you're going to get even more people to love that bill. So what's the problem? I don't understand that.
Wayne, that's a great question. I think that's on a lot of people's mind. Andrew, how much time do you have to explain what's happened to politics?
Well, I've only been covering Texas politics for 9 years, but my understanding is that this is not the first time that we've had a mid-decade redistricting, even in my lifetime. Less than 25 years ago, there was a mid-decade redistricting that was led by then Republican Congressman and Republican House Majority Leader Tom DeLay. That was after the Republicans captured control of the Texas House for the first time since I believe it was the 1870s, and they immediately tried to turn that to their advantage.
You know, Andrew, speaking of that you've been covering this for a while, President Trump took to Truth Social and he was congratulating Texas. He said, for, quote, never letting us down. He's calling this a victory. We see it more than a state win, but a national turning point. We use the term unprecedented times often, but has there been a time where Texas is kind of, from a political standpoint, been as, in the national light like this based on anything like redistricting?
I think previously the last time would have been in the early 2000s with the Tom DeLay mid-decade redistricting
that you were speaking about.
We are talking with Andrew Schneider, who is our politics and government reporter here at Houston Public Media, and we invite you to the conversation, 713-440-8870. Sherry from Memorial is on the line. Sherry, what are you thinking today?
First of all, I hope the people that are Democrats that stayed home last time because they thought it was a lock and that there'd be no way Trump could win again, I hope they really turn out this time, since the Republicans are basically cheating by asking for more redistricting, which weakens the Democratic vote. So I'm going to hang up. I just really think it's cheating, bad sportsmanship, and I born in Houston, my grandparents, my parents. This isn't the way Texans act. Just cheating that goes on with that. My father was a Republican until Trump came into office, and this is not Republican or Texas values where you have to cheat to win. You win on merit. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you, Sherry. I agree with you.
Andrew, let me ask you about that. The word cheat was used there. I think a lot of people said it's illegal and all of that. But I guess what we understand is, and help me through this, there is nothing that says you cannot do this. It has been customary for the most part not to do it. And the way they have been blatant in the idea of saying, and I mean the Republican Party coming out and saying we're doing it to get more seats to hold on to control. I think that's what leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. But it is not illegal, correct?
No, it is not illegal. And one of the more frequent comments that came up during the House debate yesterday from Democrats was exactly to that point. Several of them, among them former House Minority Leader Chris Turner, said used that exact word. He called it cheating, and several others, including Houston State Representative John Rosenthal, who is the vice chair of the redistricting select committee, said just because you can do it doesn't necessarily mean you should do it.
Right. Things can be legal.
Might doesn't make right.
Yeah.
Right. And, Andrew, you've also been covering, the special sessions. Can you tell us about some of the other topics and agendas and what's happening, the latest? I know a lot of people want to know flood mitigation, and I understand the Camp Mystic parents were testifying. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I mean, some of that legislation that has effectively been bottled up by the redistricting fight is likely to move forward now. There's definitely a push to try and get as much of this done as possible by Labor Day. And I think just for the sake of optics, if nothing else, the Republicans are going to want to be able to demonstrate that they're doing something on flooding. And I believe that the Camp Mystic legislation is one of the first bills that's going to be moving forward.
All right, we have another call. This one from Sebastian in Kingwood. Sebastian, what's on your mind? Welcome to Hello Houston.
Hey there. I was just curious, how is this adding the 5 seats strategy not the same as the Republicans blaming Biden for trying to stack the Supreme Court when he came in to give him an advantage?
Andrew, your thoughts. How is it different?
Well, it's not really something that I've given a whole lot of thought to, I have to confess. But one could certainly make the argument that it is basically the Republicans doing exactly what they've accused the Democrats of doing in a different context.
And this is what comes up all the time in this particular event, this moment for us, is that those in power are making the rules as they go along, and that the Republicans will say the Democrats do it when they're in power, and the Democrats say the Republicans do it when they're in power. This one seems egregious in this moment to a lot of Texans, and they're upset about it. But there's also the other side that feels very empowered, like the clip you played.
Can I make a comment before we get too far away from that?
Sure.
When Biden was elected president, like any president, we expect there could be Supreme Court changes, that there would be a retirement or a death, and then that president will likely appoint a Supreme Court justice favorable to his ideology. This is not where someone died or retired. In fact, this is, to your point, an out of timetable power grab. This is not along the census lines when it's supposed to be. This is, let's do it now. We're in power. We have the opportunity to grab more power. We're going to do it. So that's what makes it different than someone like Biden coming in and taking the normal opportunity to do what they all do. This is very different than that. I think that's what leaves a bad taste.
I think one of the things that's worth pointing out here is that what happens here in Texas is not going to end at the borders of Texas.
That's the part that fascinates me in this whole story. We are far from over.
We are already seeing California moving ahead on trying to advance a map that would essentially do the same thing in the opposite direction, flipping Republican seats to Democrat. Although in California's case, the map that the legislature is proposing and that Governor Newsom has proposed will have to go before the voters. So that's an extra step. You've had states on the Republican side, including Florida and Missouri and Indiana, states on the Democratic side, including Illinois and Maryland and New Jersey, and New York has suggested it, although New York has some further hurdles that would prevent them from redistricting probably before 2027. The end result could certainly be a wash nationwide. In other words, you could simply just have a large realignment of where those seats are located and still have more or less the same balance in power that you have now.
In California, if people thought it was a cakewalk, I don't know how closely you're following what's going there too, because we've had a lot going on in our own state. But there's been pushback even in California now. The California Republicans are not simply saying, sure, Gavin Newsom, do this move.
No. And in fact, one of the more interesting developments in Congress that I've noticed and did a brief story on, I believe it was last week, was that you have 10 House Democrats from Texas and at least 2 Republicans, one from California, one from New York, all of whom are advancing various different bills that would ban mid-decade redistricting. And what they all have in common is that they're potentially targets of it.
Right. That's good.
You're listening to Hello Houston. Mark is on the line. Mark in Sugar Land, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
I have 2 questions. First question, is gerrymandering now legal? I was taught in political science class that it was illegal. So just to say we're drawing districts to benefit more seats seems to me to just be illegal unless it's legal now. And secondly, if it's not, what's to prevent redrawing districts yearly?
Yeah, I heard that talked about on the phone. Thank you for that call, by the way.
Thank you, Mark.
That was like, well, what stops us from doing this every election?
There is literally nothing to stop us from doing it at every single election, and this was a point that Democrats raised repeatedly. As far as whether gerrymandering is legal, it depends on what the motivation behind it is. If it is purely partisan, the Supreme Court has basically said partisan gerrymandering is legal and federal courts cannot interfere with it. If it is racial gerrymandering, that is still forbidden under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And the argument that the Democrats have repeatedly made throughout this process is that in Texas and many states of the South, it is very difficult to differentiate between the one and the other.
So give me a little catch-up really quickly, though. On the current map we have in place, it was going through the court system. Where did that end up? Because we got so focused on this new map coming in. Is the current map still being challenged in court? Has there been a ruling on that? And what does that do to where we're at today?
If my memory serves me correctly, the court arguments on that just ended shortly before the first special session, and a judge has yet to issue a ruling. So
But
that is still under litigation.
None of that would matter if this new map gets signed in by the governor.
Well, it matters insofar as that there have already been a number of people that have said that they're mostly Democrats who have said they're planning on challenging the new map as well.
Right.
Politics and government reporter for Houston Public Media, Andrew Schneider. Andrew, thanks for joining us today on Hello Houston.
You're welcome.